everyone. Um, I'm going to go through a couple of things that have recently happened with regards to UFC 303. Obviously, with Conor McGregor pulling out, with Khamzat Chimaev pulling out, and basically, like, what I hope is happening as opposed to the highly possible reality, because there's a part of me, there's a fan of me that's hoping that something else or something bigger is in play as opposed to what I know is actually happening, what is actually being reported, because a part of me does not want to accept that this is actually happening, you know. Um, it sucks, man. It really sucks because I think a lot of MMA fans, especially June, June was going to be a very big month for a lot of MMA fans. You know, we would have Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. We would have Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. We would have Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. Like it was shaping up to be an incredible month of fights. You know, and out of all the fights that were scheduled, I think I wanted to see I wanted to see Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker more than any other fight um, during this particular month. Actually, the whole year, in my opinion. Um, so basically, let me start by recapping before I give my thoughts on this whole thing. Um, so for those who are not necessarily aware of what's happening, I don't know where you are or where you live, but yeah, man. Basically, Hamza Chimaev is apparently ill, aggressively ill, as they put it. Um, so he has been pulled out of the main event in Saudi Arabia against Robert Whittaker. The replacement is currently Ikram Aliskerov. And also, what do you call him? Conor McGregor is apparently injured. So he he is also out of the fight against Michael Chandler. It will potentially or most likely be postponed until what I think will probably be at the Sphere. I don't think they will postpone it to any time soon. So yeah, most likely it is going to be postponed to the Sphere. The new main event for Saudi Arabia is Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. I don't know if I mentioned that. And the new main event for UFC 303 is what do you call him? Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka. And I must say I'm not too excited, but you know what, Alex Pereira, you know, delivers. Irrespective of how you feel about him, like the guy actually does deliver a lot, especially um, in the past couple of years. You know, I'm sure the UFC is paying him really, really well, especially because he comes through on short notice. Like UFC 300, they had their own plans, but you know what? Alex Pereira saved their card and against Jamal Hill, and as the main event, he actually delivered. However, okay, let me highlight the co-main event. The co-main event for UFC 303 is also apparently cancelled. I think so. Um, the replacement will be what do you call him? Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. Um, so yeah, that's basically the recap. English or Spanish. I speak English. A lot of my subscribers have been requesting that I add Spanish subtitles or Portuguese subtitles. I'm working on doing that. There's only so much that I can do at this point because I'm doing everything on the channel alone. So until I get a bit of help, YouTube is not paying me yet, so once YouTube starts paying me, I'll make sure that I include like my Latinos basically. So back to what I was saying. Um, there's a fan in me, that's hoping, right? Because I posted this on Facebook, and I'm sure people are laughing at that comment, but there's a fan in me that's like, you know what? I'm hoping that Hamza Chimaev was pulled out of the main event in Saudi Arabia in order to, I don't know, be part of the fight, but again, International Fight Week. Um, and I know that the main event has been announced. It's Hamza, what do you call it? Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka. However, there's a part of me that hopes that the UFC made up this whole thing about Hamza Chimaev being sick, because obviously they can't just take out Hamza Chimaev when Saudi Arabia is paying them so much money. Because I heard Saudi Arabia pays the UFC approximately 15 million, um, approximately 15 million to 20 something million. I heard. So I'm sure if they wanted to pull out, if they wanted Hamza Chimaev to pull out, they would actually have to come up with something. They would actually have to come up with something, a really good lie. So there's a part of me that still hopes that the UFC is basically making this whole thing about Hamza Chimaev being sick, in order to actually be able to pull Chimaev out of the fight from UFC, Saudi Arabia, the fight night in Saudi Arabia, and then add him to UFC 303. That would be incredible. I hope, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm still hopeful. I know it's kind of delusional, but you know what? Crazier things have happened, especially in the UFC. So there's a part of me that still feels like, I mean, and which makes sense to some extent. Are you crying, bro? I don't know. Do you see tears in my eyes, man? Like, I'm expressing emotion. Like, why do you sound like you're condescending it? Anyway, so basically, my thoughts on this particular whole thing is that number one, I feel like this will negatively affect Hamza Chimaev's stardom. Hamza Chimaev was becoming one of the biggest, in my opinion. I always say, and I still maintain that I feel like Hamza Chimaev has the potential to actually become as big as Conor McGregor. However, the things that have been happening recently, are basically affecting his ability to actually become what he is supposed to become. Obviously, fans are becoming a little bit frustrated, but it seems like there's still a lot of interest, because everything I post about Hamza Chimaev, especially on my channel, it gets a lot of, traction. It gets the highest amount of numbers. I mean, so far I was looking forward to actually seeing how his videos, the fight videos, the predictions, the statistics videos, and all these type of things. I was looking forward to seeing how they actually perform, because um, everything that I've posted so far, which is in the community section, has been doing really well. So I was actually looking forward to how big they would become. So that in itself, like if you look at the fights, I remember the UFC when they were promoting the fight between Hamza Chimaev and Nate Diaz. They posted a fight on their YouTube channel, right? And then at the same time, they posted Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. Um, so what happened? There's someone in the comment section who's trying to troll me. It's health issues. He really could have been big. Yeah, no, I'll come. I want. There's something that I want to say about Hamza. I still feel like he has the opportunity to be big. I just want to reply to this guy who's basically trying to troll me in the comment section. It won't work, dude. Like, it's hard to troll me. um, teeth looking shit, bro. Coming from a dental student who just graduated, I would be I would be glad to fix it. Um, I mean, I like my teeth, dog. Like, are you a dental graduate who's busy going on live to check other people's teeth and offering to fix it? You're not gonna make a lot of money. You don't sound like a dental student. So I mean, it's hard to troll me, man. But you can give it a shot. It's hard to get to me. Anyway, so as I was saying, Hamza Chimaev, I feel like he was becoming a star. Like, so as I was speaking, or rather as I was saying, the UFC posted a fight between Gilbert Burns versus Hamza Chimaev, right, and a fight between Conor McGregor and what do you call him, Nate Diaz. Those two fights were probably the biggest fights on the UFC channel at the time, because I think those fights got to nearly 30 million within a space of like 3 months, right? So that just goes to show how big he is. Obviously, the UFC deletes those fights and then repost them when there are upcoming fights, or rather, those upcoming fighters are fighting. Um, they call them free fights, as usual. Um, so that's what they normally do. So obviously the views are not there. That are originally posted views are not there. But also when you look at the embedded videos where Hamza Chimaev is, they get incredible numbers. If you go on TikTok, you search the name Hamza Chimaev, it has over 2 billion views. The guy has the potential to be one of the biggest stars, in the UFC, and I feel like all this is affecting his stardom, but I could be wrong. It could be adding to the anticipation. It could mean that the next time Hamza Chimaev fights, it might be a really, really big deal because everyone wants to see him and everyone wants to see if he's going to perform at that level. The interesting thing about Hamza Chimaev is the fact that there's so many unanswered questions. A lot of people are asking themselves, will he be able to survive if the fight lasts like more than 3 rounds? Like, how does he do if the fight is 5 rounds? How does he do against champion, like high level fighters like Robert Whittaker? I don't think anyone is interested anymore in the fight between him and Paulo Costa. Costa's stock is declining significantly fast. I mean, he's looked good in his previous fights, but he hasn't been winning. So I saw that Paulo Costa is calling for that fight. Unfortunately, Hamza Chimaev, or rather, unfortunately for Paulo Costa, Hamza Chimaev is still a star. I don't think the UFC is going to make the fight between him and Paulo Costa. So yeah, I'm really bummed about that. I know a lot of people are not that big of fans of Hamza Chimaev, but I'm a really, really, really big fan of Hamza Chimaev. I feel like he has the ability to do everything that he has been saying he's going to do. Unfortunately, he hasn't had the consistency, and I feel like it was affected by. I don't know if the rumors are true because it hasn't been officially confirmed about him being banned from entering the United States, because so far it's just media reporting on this particular topic, and saying, well, he can't get into the UFC because he hasn't. I mean, he can't get into the US because he hasn't like performed or rather fought in the United States in over a year or two or something like that. It's still speculation, but I'm just hoping that he recovers, he comes back, and he is a little bit more active. I think the UFC is also to blame regarding this whole thing. A lot of people like to blame Hamza Chimaev for inactivity because what made Hamza Chimaev as popular as he became was the fact that he was insanely active. He turned around on a week's notice and actually dominated both fights. and which is basically what made Hamza Chimaev what he is today, the activity. And I feel like this the moment Hamza Chimaev became a star, the moment that there was a demand to see him, the moment the UFC saw how the crowds were reacting to him, they started to shelf him and they wanted to strategically book him, which affected the activity. And I feel like the UFC in some way contributed to actually slowing down the momentum that Hamza Chimaev had early in his career. Obviously, I still feel like Hamza Chimaev, I mean, he's still undefeated. He's still one of the most talked about stars in the UFC. So I still feel like if he manages to get the belt, he will be one of the biggest stars in the UFC. And if he continues to fight the way he's fighting, because even if people hate him or whatever the case is, everyone watches because they wonder what's going to happen if the fight goes past the first round, which is something that's interesting a lot of people, even people who hate him, tune in to see, is this guy going to gas out before this particular round, which makes him like a massive draw. Whether you like him or not, you will most likely watch his fights to see what happens. So speedy recovery to him. And let me justify my reason at the beginning for my delusion of thinking that Hamza Chimaev might be booked for UFC 303, right? Dana White at the end, like when he was announcing all of this, said, "Get well soon, my friend," and he smiled. I guess I read too much into that, but to me, it seemed like basically Dana White was saying, I don't know. I've never seen Dana White react like that, especially when a fighter is injured and on a card that's as important that as the Saudi Arabia card. Or maybe it's because Hamza Chimaev was making him a lot of money, or rather he saw the attention, or rather the reception. Only he can see from his side the amount of money that and attention that Hamza Chimaev was creating before even the fight was happening. The buzz, like that's basically what I'm referring to. Obviously, Dana White knows a little bit more than most, like anyone actually. So that's basically why I was hoping that but I don't see it happening. I hope I'm right, but I don't think I am. Let's go to Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor. I did early predictions on Conor McGregor. And in all honesty, after looking at a couple of things, because I research, and if you've been following my channel for a while, you know how okay UFC 300 I got I think 10 out of 12 predictions correct. UFC 302 I got 11 out of 12 predictions correct. Uh, Last week I got how many? 11 out of 14. So my predictions are pretty good. So when I was sitting down and doing my analysis, I was like, Conor McGregor has a high probability of actually winning this fight. I see a lot of people logging off when I start talking about Conor McGregor. Clearly, everyone was just here for Hamza Chimaev. But yeah, so I think Conor McGregor had a shot at winning that particular fight, which honestly sucks. And I mean, obviously, when it's being postponed, it benefits Conor McGregor because basically, the more it gets pushed back, it will essentially mean that Conor McGregor has a little bit more time to prepare, and Michael Chandler gets a little bit more old. And that benefits Conor McGregor because if I'm not mistaken, Conor McGregor is like 33 or 32, 33, somewhere there. He's still in his prime. Until he hits 35, he still can come back and perform exceptionally well. Unfortunately, his lifestyle habits and all those type of things will prevent him from actually achieving the things that he wants to achieve, because I still feel like being able to survive that long in a fight against a prime Habib Nurmagomedov, even though he got submitted and all those type of things, that fight was competitive. It was incredible to watch. So if that Conor McGregor that faced Habib Nurmagomedov comes back somehow, he's going to dominate. Obviously, he's not beating Islam Makhachev, but I feel like if he goes to welterweight, he has a big shot at beating Leon Edwards. I can confidently say I think Conor McGregor can beat Leon Edwards, but a sober and healthy Conor McGregor, a focused Conor McGregor can beat Leon Edwards. I think he's the better striker. He's a little bit more accurate than Leon Edwards. So if Conor McGregor was to actually focus and tell himself he's going to stop drinking and all these other things, but you know what? It worked for Ryan Garcia. So I mean, who am I to question the process? But so far, it hasn't worked for Conor McGregor. So I feel like maybe he should leave all these things, extra things outside, if he actually has the desire to become champion again, which I feel like he still can. But regarding the fight between Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, my early predictions was that Conor McGregor would win that fight, but um, I still feel that way. Um, I feel like Michael Chandler, as I said, is getting older and older, and that won't change anytime soon. Actually, it won't get any better. So I think the postponement benefits Conor McGregor, provided he is able to heal. If the injury is the same leg that was broken in the fight versus Dustin Poirier, then it's gonna be a really really big problem for Conor McGregor, because it means there's a possibility the injury will come back again if he even manages to get into the octagon. Because look at TJ Dillashaw, you know, he had like an injury with his shoulder, and when he thought like it was like healed and all these type of things, Aljamain Sterling just dislocated it again or whatever he did, you know. So it seems like if ever it's that leg, then Conor McGregor's career is probably over. Which is sad, because whether you like him or not, you know, he brought a lot of attention to the sport. And uh, for people like me who have channels, you know, I've never actually benefited from anything that is Conor McGregor related, because I started my channel last year, and I don't like posting useless things. I only did this live because I feel passionately about every single topic that I'm talking about. If you go through my channel, I don't post things that I don't care about, you know, just for the clicks. I prefer quality over quantity. And that's the motto every like across my channel. So yeah, it sucks, but we'll see the fight between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler later in the year. The new replacements for let's start with UFC Saudi Arabia. Um, Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. Um, this is a tough one. I'm looking forward to do the analysis and the prediction. I might lean towards Ikram Aliskerov, but on short notice, it's kind of tricky to actually pick Ikram over Robert Whittaker, because I'm not particularly sure if but it's not short notice technically, you know. Yeah, because Ikram was actually in camp to fight this week actually. So the fight has just been postponed by a week, and it's a different opponent. Obviously, it's significantly high jump, but it's not like Ikram was on the couch and wasn't doing anything. He was actually preparing for a fight this week. So I don't like the word short notice for this one. It's just a different opponent, a better opponent. And if somehow Ikram manages to win this one, man, it's gonna be a problem. There's a possibility when Hamza Chimaev comes back, he is going to potentially face Ikram, which is going to match, because the last person that the last and the only person that Ikram has lost to was Hamza Chimaev. So I'm sure the UFC, if Ikram somehow manages to win this fight, I'm sure um, Hamza Chimaev's return fight will probably be against Ikram Aliskerov. That's going to be a sick fight. So yeah, I don't know, man. At this point, it's hard to predict, because both of them were in camp. So I can't really say Ikram is on short notice, because he was also in camp to fight this week. Obviously, Robert Whittaker was preparing for Khamzat Chimaev, so both of them are faced with the similar issue of preparing for a different opponent. So we can't necessarily then say that it's short notice. To me, it's not short notice. It's just preparing for a different fighter. So I can't give any prediction at this particular point in time. I don't like to guess. I prefer analysis and make an informed decision. But this is going to be a tough one to actually predict. I can tell just from looking at it. It's not as exciting as I'm touching Chimaev, but I'm looking forward to the entire card. It has good fights like Sergey, Sharamagomedov. I think is a really good prospect and all these type of things. So yeah, I think the card is still good for next week. I mean, it's still a fight night at the end of the day. So I think it's still a really, really good fight night, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's get to UFC 303. The main event replacement is Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka. Um, I don't know how I feel about this particular fight, largely because I feel like I know how it's going to end. There's a possibility that Jiri Prohaska might win this fight because Alex Pereira is getting old. But at light heavyweight, I mean, Glover Teixeira was champion at like 42, if I'm not mistaken. So at light heavyweight, age does not mean as much as in lower weight classes. So you never know how it's going to pan out. But the age ultimately, no one is undefeated against Father Time. So and Jiri Prohaska is wild. And in my own opinion, I feel like Jiri Prohaska will probably have a shot if he doesn't just let Alex Pereira kick his legs. And I don't feel like Jiri Prohaska has addressed that, especially when you look at his previous fight against Alexander Rakic. Even though I picked Jiri Prohaska to win that fight, I didn't like the defense. He was getting beaten up badly in that particular fight. It wasn't horrible, but he was being beaten up, and he wasn't defending well. And if he does that against Alex Pereira, it's not gonna end well. We saw how it ended the first time they fought, and I don't feel like it's gonna be any different this time because I don't think Jiri Prohaska has addressed his defense. Um, and yeah, that's basically why I'm not excited about this particular fight. Also, the other part of me not being excited is that why isn't it Ankalaev, because the guy is on a long streak. It's like Bilal. The MMA guru likes to say things like, oh my god, these are the most privileged fighters on the UFC roster. But look at the stakes that these guys have to go on in order to get a title shot. He likes to say these things like these people are coming in with two wins. You can argue and say, well, these guys are beating bums. Probably you're correct, but at the end of the day, they have to build up streaks that are like 10 fight win streaks in order to get a title shot. Look at Habib, look at Islam Makhachev, look at Bilal, look at Ankalaev. Look at Umar. In order for them to get to a point whereby they are getting like proper, um, like proper competition, they have to rack up these insane streaks in order to get to these positions. So it's sad that it's not Angelai fighting for the belt because it probably means that he's going to have to fight again, or rather fight another contender. Oh, but I guess it might not mean that. I mean, the fight is happening in 2 weeks, so whoever wins that fight, um, unless if Jiri wins, then it causes problems for Ankalaev because Jiri will probably want a rematch, especially because yeah, he's been doing favors for the UFC. He saved UFC 300. He's now saving UFC 303. So the UFC will probably give him a rematch if he loses this particular fight, especially because it's on short notice. So it might complicate things. Hopefully, what do you call him? Alex Pereira wins this fight so that Ankalaev can finally get a shot at the belt. Because it sucks that look at Bilal. I mean, and Bilal is now old. I don't know if he wins that fight. We'll see. But Bilal is like 35, if I'm not mistaken. And in MMA and at welterweight, it's pretty old. You know. So yeah, that sucks. The co-main event of UFC 303. Um, June just went from exciting. I mean, the fights could deliver. It's like UFC 300. A lot of people were complaining about the matchups, but the actual pay-per-view delivered because the fights were incredible. There were so many finishes. We got the Max Holloway moment and all these type of things. So UFC 303 could deliver. But it's hard to get excited for it at this point because whoever wins, there will be a built-in excuse. Oh, I came in on short notice, and all these type of things. Whoever wins in the main event is going to say that, whether it's Alex Pereira, whether it's Jiri, even in the co-main event, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. I guess that means Aljamain Sterling is going to be facing Movsar Evloev because Aljamain Sterling was calling for a fight against what do you call him, um, Brian Ortega. So I saw the Twitter beef or the Twitter back and forth that, or the X, I should say, the X back and forth that what do you call him, Aljamain Sterling was having with Movsar Evloev. So I'm assuming that the UFC is going to book Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling, which is a pretty good fight, but it's a hard fight for Aljamain Sterling. After everything they did to him, I wish they could have just given him like a Brian Ortega so that he can get to the belt a little bit quicker. But it is what it is. Let me get to the actual co-main event. Who do I think wins? I think Diego Lopez has a high probability of winning this fight. Brian Ortega is not that good of a grappler. He's good, but he's good for featherweight. He's not that great in general. There are certain grapplers who are good for their division. Like if you look at Marvin Vittori, if you put Marvin Vittori's grappling or wrestling skills at lightweight, he would be he wouldn't even be in the top 30 of the lightweight division with his wrestling, Marvin Vittori. But it works for middleweight because they aren't that great grapplers. Obviously, now that Bo Nickel is part of the division, it changes things. Obviously, you have people like Ikram, you have people like Khamzat Chimaev who are incredible wrestlers. But my point is that people who are good at certain things for their division, like in general, they are not necessarily good. So Brian Ortega's grappling is not that great, and I feel like it won't be effective against Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez's striking has been getting significantly better. His loss to Movsar Evloev was impressive because he came in on short notice and actually gave him a run for his money, which was incredible to see. And the fact that he has since went on to finish every single fight that he's had. I actually thought the Pat Sabatini fight would actually be a little bit closer than it was. I was wrong on that one. I was wrong on that one. So yeah, I think the co-main event most likely Diego Lopez is probably going to win that fight. I know my analysis might disagree with me. I don't know yet. I'm still going to have to do them, but I'm going to do the analysis next week. I'm just a little bit bummed about this whole situation. Um, but yeah, I've never actually talked this long and had this many people online. I appreciate and love all of you. If you're new to the channel, go through the community section. The voting now is open. The subscribers picks where my subscribers choose who they think is going to win. Every single week we do this. We have subscribers picks. If you watch my videos, if you watch my predictions and all these type of things, you'll see there's a subscribers picks, and I noticed that a lot of people don't know about this. Um, so go to the community section right now. There are fights. I posted every single fight. You can vote on who you think is going to win, and whoever has the most amount of votes, obviously, is the subscribers pick. So the shorts section, which is probably the biggest source of my views and subscribers. I post with statistics and predictions there. That's where the early predictions come out. The video section where there are different types of statistics. It's statistics still, but it's different kind. Like who has the highest finishing rate, who has the highest knockout percentage, who has the highest knockout loss percentage, and all these type of things through or on the video section of the channel. On the playlist section of the channel, there are interviews, live interviews. I do interviews with a local promotion in South Africa, which is called EFC. So I do interviews with their champions and co-main events. I love and appreciate all of you guys. I will see you guys in the comment section. I've never had this many people online while I was talking consistently. So this shows I'm growing. I love and appreciate all of you. See you on the next one or in the comment section. Until next time, deuces.